Welcome to another episode on our channel. I showed you in another episode, a few episodes ago, how to make a cowboy hat. I had actually seen one on eBay for like $18.99. And when you get done with shipping and handling and taxes and stuff like that, it'd probably be about $25, $23 to $25. And I thought, when I looked at the hat, I thought, I bet I can make one. And so I had some leather lying around. One way to get leather is from an upholsterer that you become friends with. And you just ask, do you ever get any scrap leather that you don't want? And if you do have some scrap leather that you don't want, we'd be happy to pay you for it. And the gal we befriended, she said, yeah, I do have scrap leather that I won't use. You just take it. And we said, no, we have to pay you something for it. And so we did. But if they're okay with you taking it free, and you're okay with that too, that's a lot of leather you can make some custom items with. And one of the things you can make is a hat, a leather hat. So I thought I could do it. And I looked at a hat that I had on a cowboy I had, and I kind of thought, okay, I need a brim that has to be a little more oval than round. And I kind of drew it out and cut it out. And then I need a top piece. And I cut it out. I drew it and cut it out. And this was like an inch, just a rectangular piece that was an inch. I super glued it together in the back, and then I had a band the same length, super glued it in the back, maybe just a touch bigger, longer I should say, and super glued it in the back at the seam, same side. And this part I super glued onto the hat, and then I cut out the hole. So I was able to make a hat. I felt really good about that. And then I decided, okay, let me go ahead and out of the same material, let me make a holster rig. And so I did. So it matches. I love matching things. That's me. My husband made the 3D print resin gun. I painted the handle black and the barrel silver and did a wash on it, so it kind of looks like it's been used, and it fits nicely in this holster. This is a metal belt buckle. I bought a bunch of these a ton of years ago, like 50 or 100 of them on a seller from eBay. I've never seen these offered on eBay ever again. But if you're looking for buckles like this, you can go to Steve-O's Toys. He does sell buckles, and they're like 3 for $5. Now, if you go to Monkey Depot to the pre-owned kit, you could probably find belts with buckles for about $1.67. Remember, Steve-O's Toys sells them 3 for $5, about $1.67 per buckle. You can probably find a belt for that price or less. But if you want a holster rig, you're not going to find that. So it may pay to get these buckles. So anyway, I'll show you how to do this. I had an episode showing you how to do this way back when, but I think I've simplified it since then. So I'll show you how to do that in a future episode. But these two things match, which I'm very proud of. Then I thought, well, what if you don't have a friend who's an upholsterer who has free leather? What do? What could you do? Because leather nowadays, if you go to Michael's, it can be actually quite expensive to get that leather, and it's not the greatest leather on the face of the planet. And if you look on the internet for leather, sometimes you don't know what you're buying. It may give you dimensions, but you really don't know for sure until you see it, feel it, if it's going to make a good hat or a holster or something like that. So it's always risky getting something that you can't actually touch or hold and actually see what the product is. I was curious if I could make a hat out of, it's spelled CHAMOIS. Sounds very French. Chamois, I would think it is pronounced, but we call it chamois. And it's used to wipe off cars after it's gone through a car wash. And you can get this fairly inexpensively. It's thin. I just found out from my husband it's made out of sheepskin, which is, I don't know, it's disheartening to me because I'm actually vegetarian. Anyway, but I have it, so I have to use it, right? So anyway, I wondered if I could make a hat out of this stuff. Anyway, well, leather is cow, right? So anyway, it's a debate. It goes on in my mind now, and now I'm thinking maybe I can make a hat out of felt. I'll experiment. Yeah. But anyway, I have this, so I tried to make a hat out of this. Let me show you what happened. With the previous hat, the leather hat, it's 1 inch. I made it 1 inch, and I think that's too high. I think it should be 3/4 of an inch. But I made the mistake of using 1 inch again. And this is what I came up with out of this material. So use this material, use the same method as I explained in making the leather hat. Super glue is my friend because I do not sew nicely. I don't have patience for it really, but yeah, super glue. And this is painted black, of course, because it doesn't come in black. So it's painted black, fabric paint. And when it, amazingly, it was painted with the brim flat. But out in the sun, when it dried, these two edges flipped up exactly where I wanted them to flip up. I did not shape it this way. So I have no need to move it around, but it's actually rigid, very rigid. That part I don't like. So I might experiment, make another one and just move it around to see if I can get it to soften up a bit. Even though we used fabric paint, vinyl paint, it still got rigid. So I decided to make another hat. So this came out well, actually, I think. And I made it 3/4 of an inch this time. Used the same method, everything was the same, except it was 1/4 of an inch. And in this situation, it came out basically like this. It's like 3-sided. So we have a flap up. I don't know if you can see it very nicely. A flap up and a flap on each side. And I swear I did not position it. It just dried that way. It's like it was reading my mind. I wanted one of these hats eventually. I just didn't expect it to happen so soon because this is apparently how a lot of cowboy hats looked years ago. These are the vintage hats. This hat is more of a modern hat compared to this. So this is like, if you've ever watched a show years ago called F Troop, Corporal Agarn would have worn a hat shaped like this. So anyway, yeah, so this is the old time look. So it came out pretty good. It's rigid though. That's the bad thing. So hopefully it will fit on a head nicely. And I would like to experiment with making another hat and seeing if I can loosen it up and have it become softer with a lot of movement taking place. We'll see though. But what I want to try to do tomorrow is I do want to try to make a holster out of this stuff and see what happens. I'm also interested in seeing what happens with chaps, because it would be nice to have a hat, a matching holster, and a matching set of chaps, just to see. I know I mentioned I eyeballed this when I made this hat, the first hat that I made out of leather. But what I didn't know is that there are patterns on the internet for human hats. And all you have to do is shrink it down to about 1/6 scale, and that takes the guessing out of this process. So I happen to guess pretty good. It's not completely as straight as it could be, but it's not bad. Let me see, get it down to where I had it. There we go. It's not too bad. And this isn't too bad. So yeah, so it worked out with the eyeballing, but that's not going to happen 100% of the time. I think I just lucked out. So find a pattern. If you want to try this, find a pattern, shrink it down to about 1/6 scale, and see what you can do. And I would be tempted to use super glue, but if you can sew, maybe that's the better way to go. Anyway, we'll see what happens with this stuff in terms of a holster rate. But now I'm really curious to see if I can do it with felt, because I'd rather do it that way. We'll see. Anyway, that's really all I have for you guys today. So sorry, but this week has been really hectic with work, and I haven't had much time to do too much in terms of get ahead of the episodes and film things and so forth. But we'll try to get a holster made and chaps made and see how that process goes. I hope you've liked what you've seen. We'll show you these again when I get the holster and the chaps made. I hope you've liked what you've seen. If you have, consider giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. In the meantime, everyone, please have a great day.